Hello guys, good evening and welcome back to my 15th review of my Doctor Who marathon. Last time we did the 14th review of my marathon with The Invasion, a really fantastic Cyberman story. But now we are moving on to what was to be the longest and most biggest Doctor Who review on my channel. However, it's not going to be today. I'm going to move it on to probably Tuesday, or hopefully when I get it out. It is going to be a massive, but not to worry, there is another story which we have to get through in order for us to get to the most biggest and most longest review in my Doctor Who marathon, which you probably know what I'm on about. And so today's review is one of my favourite Ice Warrior stories, The Seeds of Death. A really just fantastic story written by a really good writer, Brian Hayles, who really made this story so fantastic, with including the Ice Warriors to plan an invasion force to claim the planet for themselves, Earth. And I just really love the Ice Warriors in this. I just think they're fantastic in this, and just such a brilliant story. I just really enjoyed the entire thing, really. And so let's get cracking into the review of The Seeds of Death, written by Brian Hayles, the creator of the Ice Warriors. By the late 20th century, mankind has become totally dependent on Tiamat to transport people, food and medicines all around the world. When the systems breaks down, Earth is soon crippled by global shortages. Travelling to the relay station on the moon, the Doctor and his companions discover the horrific truth. The Ice Warriors have hijacked Tiamat and intend to claim the planet for themselves. Can the Doctor defeat the Martians before Earth is smothered in a deadly fungus and the human race is condemned to extinction? Now, I really enjoyed this entire story, only because, with loads of main reasons, I just really enjoy the Ice Warriors. And I just think they're so underrated without them appearing in most of the time. Most of the time, we get usually overshadowed by the Ice Warriors and many other Doctor Who villains that have been in the past. But they're more used to doing Daleks and Cybermen stories now from now on. But now I feel like the Ice Warriors just are so underrated now as a monster. I think this is one of their best stories, only because I like Slar. I mean, Slar is a very manipulative and very sinister leader of the Ice Warriors, and he has such a manipulative way of persuading people to to help him and basically make him do his dirty work for them. Yeah, and so he's kind of a manipulative kind of, leader. And I had to say the Ice Warriors are pretty good in this story. They kill quite a lot of soldiers, well, security guards, and they kill quite a lot of people as well. And also with their invasion plan to basically take over the entire Earth and claim it for themselves. It was a really good idea by Brian Hayles, and he's just a fantastic writer. And he definitely understands the entire concept of that Mars is a dying planet, and that the Ice Warriors, who live in cold conditions, in cold climates, need to find somewhere of making their invasion force so they could claim the Earth for themselves. And so what they had to do was they had to send seed pods, or what seemed to be like seed pods, down to Earth by Tiamat. And so that was the part of their invasion force. By sending down the pods down by Tiamat to every single national city, such as London, Paris, New York, Tokyo, you name it. And so, with that said, with the pods sent down by Tiamat, the Ice Warriors can lash out and harmful attack onto the humans, because the pods, as they exploded, they create some kind of fungus and they escape, and it escapes into the atmosphere. And by doing that, the atmosphere is being, turned into a toxic and kind of harmful atmosphere for humans to live in. It's taking away all the oxygen, and that's how many of the deaths, came from this story. Many people died from oxygen starvation, and these seed pods kind of emit some kind of smog or gas that kind of poisons the air to remove all oxygen, atoms from the air, making it unsafe for humans to live in. And so I really like that interesting concept of removing all of the oxygen from the air, making it unsuitable for us humans to live in, but making it more suitable for the Ice Warriors to live in. And there's one thing that really concerned me. All of the pods were sent down by Tiamat to all the national countries in cold climates. Why not to warm climates? Because the Ice Warriors can't stand heat, and I bet the fungus may not work in hot conditions. So therefore, the Ice Warriors don't like heat, and therefore they're trying to convert or control the weather station to make the whole Earth or the whole world become like a cold and, you know, unsafe environment for humans, by making it a much suitable living condition for the Ice Warriors to live in and claim the Earth for themselves by then. And so that's a really interesting, you know, invasion plan in order for them to completely claim the Earth for themselves. I really like that. That's a really ingenious plan. I do like all of the characters in this, especially Miss Kelly, who I kind of think that she knows so much about Tiamat, and I believe that she is just so in control instead of Commander Ratnor, because she has so much knowledge and about Tiamat. She completely like takes over the situation just like that, because she is so dependable on everybody else, and so she feels like a person in command that people can rely on to help, and so she's a very great helping hand throughout the whole story. And I like Commander Ratnor, who has a bold, very powerful figure of authorization when it comes to his job, owning the whole organization of Tiamat. I really like his personality, and also I like this, you know, encouragement and his, you know, confidence and helping people all around the world who has a Tiamat cubicle. Since Tiamat was out of action in the first 2 episodes, they couldn't really communicate with basically the moon, because they believed that the cause was at moon base. And so at the start of the 2 episodes, the moon base was invaded by the Ice Warriors, and the moon people, they couldn't really have any way of communicating with Earth. And so they had a little bit of trouble of fixing a way and, you know, transporting people from Earth down to Moon by Tiamat, because Tiamat wasn't working. And so therefore they had to figure out some other way of getting to the moon, whereas not with Tiamat. And so they thought of using a rocket, but rockets have been used for decades. And so Commander Ratnor had this other friend, Professor Eldred, who was a master in rocketry, and he built such an incredible and massive rockets, which sadly didn't get the authorization from the government, and so therefore it couldn't really take off, and they completely abandoned the project because Tiamat is so more efficiently and more dependable around the world, and so Rocket just basically wasn't interested by the government, and so therefore Professor Eldred completely gave up. But since Tiamat isn't working at the moment, therefore they had to go on rely on the best situation and the best possible solution to get to the moon is by rockets. But Professor Eldred, as I know, I like his character, but he refused to let Commander Ratnor take charge of the entire rocket, because he believed, Professor Eldred believes that this rocket is way too dangerous, and there'll be so much risks involved, and it would be better if we take more precautions and, you know, prepare it better instead of going, you know, rushing into it and making basically. You never know, maybe the rocket may explode, I don't know, but I feel like that he has some kind of privilege and some pride of that rocket, and he didn't really want to have that rocket take off because he refused, because it's too dangerous. That's what he initially thinks. And so they had a little bit of persuasion of trying to, you know, to make sure the rocket is fully operational and fully to take off. But yeah, and so by the end of episode 2, the rocket was in full operation and it took off. But however, they had a bit of trouble with landing, and although the Doctor and Zoe, they had really great experience in space travel and rocket and, you know, flying rockets and stuff, but with Jamie, sort of on the nervous side he was, but he's more lead to fighting, you know, redcoats and flying off into outer space, isn't he? Anyway, I thought the Doctor was really great in this story when he was talking to, I believe, Fusham. Now, Fusham, I will get into him a bit later on, but what I like about the Doctor, especially when it comes to Fusham, because Fusham was seemed as a very nervous, but very agitated, very panicky kind of character, who kind of helped the Ice Warriors in succeeding with their plan of conquering the Earth, sending all the pods down and sending the Ice Warriors down to, you know, invade the entire Earth. And so he was a bit panicky, and he valued his life so much, and he didn't really want to die by being killed by the Ice Warriors, so he wanted to live longer and longer and longer. And so therefore he really had this kind of agitated, ego about himself to help out and do what the Ice Warriors have told him to do. Otherwise he'll just get killed in the end. And so it's either he risks his life to save others, or basically help the Ice Warriors in succeeding in their plans. So that was the only way he had the choice. And then I really liked the way that the Doctor has such a very serious, but also had a very dark and sinister kind of way of persuading and manipulating Fushim to help him, because he was like this: I'm gonna have a look in that crate, and you're going to help me no matter what. And I can almost see his devil eyes when he's talking to Fushim. And I thought, this is having a different way to the Doctor. Like, the Doctor wouldn't usually manipulate people to help him. He would ask very gently and politely. But no, this is actually way, way, way different than that. And I just really, really liked that. I thought that was a bit strange, but very strange involved. So yeah, I really think that was a strange moment, being so manipulative to Fushim. As even said, he has been helping the Ice Warriors, and so people just didn't really like him at all because he was helping the Ice Warriors succeeding in their plans. And so yeah, I bet you're probably wondering how the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe and all the other people had to cope with all of this invasion stuff. Excuse me. And so basically they had to figure out some way of stopping this deadly fungus, because the seed pods that were being transported down by T-Mat were completely, creating this sort of kind of deadly fungus that was removing all of the oxygen from the atmosphere, creating it so unsafe for humans to live in. And so they had to figure out some way of stopping this entire fungus and removing it and destroying it completely. So they've tried many chemicals, many guns, but it didn't work. But instead, water. Plain old simple water. That was the only answer to the solution. And all they needed to do was to make it rain. But however, they went over to the weather station and in fact they saw an Ice Warrior there, which probably potentially guarding there to prevent anybody going into the weather station and making it rain. They don't want it to rain. They just want it to completely be like home and dry. No rain at all. So therefore, this whole fungus will be, destroyed completely. And so that was their only plan of, destroying the entire fungus to make it rain. And so that was the key point that they had to include. But also, what about the invasion fleet that the Ice Warriors were bringing down from outer space down to the moon? And so when the Ice Warrior Armada fleet is homed down from the homing signal device down to the moon, they will automatically send down all the Ice Warriors Armada down by T-Mat and destroy the entire world and all the people around it and claim the Earth for themselves. I just think it's a really interesting plan, and I really like the entire atmosphere as well. It's just so brilliant. But the Doctor and Miss Kelly, they sort of had to figure out a way to basically divert the Ice Warrior Armada fleet from coming down to the moon. And so they had to create to recreate their homing signal device. And so they had to create like two different signals. There was either a right signal or the wrong signal. And unfortunately, the Ice Warriors made a diverted turn away from the moon but towards the sun, and so they were actually following the Doctor's and Miss Kelly's homing device signal instead of the original Ice Warrior signal homing device. And so therefore the Armada fleet was actually heading towards the sun, not to the moon. And so therefore Slar's Armada fleet will just be completely destroyed, because the Ice Warriors, they just can't stand the heat. And even so, if they go around in orbit around the sun, they're going to get completely melted to pieces, really. And so that was literally the whole point to divert the entire Armada fleet towards the sun in order to stop them from invading Earth. And I really like that kind of how they recreated the signal to make it almost identical to the original Ice Warriors homing device. I thought that was really ingenious, because you couldn't really recognize which homing signal or homing device was activated. Was it the Ice Warriors or was it ours? There was either a wrong one or a right one, so you didn't really know which one it was that diverted the right one. So it is really a fantastic story, and I really do like. And also the music at the beginning, when they have the kind of the title of the Seeds of Death and then the rights and then the episode, the music, I thought it just went just fantastic. I really liked that the music at the beginning. Just thought it was really set into the tune of, you know, space travel, and you know, it was just so great just to include that music in. And even so, in the middle of episode 2 and 3, there was a bit of scenes where Patrick Troughton was running around like a maniac, and it was almost like a silent movie, really, and I just thought that was very funny, really. And so, yeah, he was like basically running around like a maniac, and then he ran into this kind of, you know, room with all these mirrors around him, like, oh, am I the Doctor or something like that? Yeah, it was a bit funny a moment. It just felt like a really silent movie, really, like all the no talking involved, just basically people running around, really. Oh yeah, so it is a good run around story, I have to agree, but I think that the Ice Warriors are at their best, killing all of the soldiers or the security guards with their sonic lasers. I thought the sonic lasers and the graphics that kind of made the kind of, you know, the death kind of, you know, sonic device thing, I thought that was quite an ingenious graphic kind of design, and it was great effects. And so, yeah. Also, there was something I was watching quite recently on All Things Doctor Who. I'll put in the link in the description down below so you could go and check it out. He was basically talking about, do effects matter in Doctor Who? And so, yeah, I definitely believe that effects really do matter in Doctor Who. Just make it so very special towards the classic series. And because they didn't really have much special things back in the classic series. But with this, they had to do what they can. And they really made a fantastic job with all the great effects. Having all of the, I think the Ice Warriors were a bit weak to the, I think Phillips, or I think his name was, he was basically in the room where he had these kind of solar panels, and then he switched on some solar power and he completely turned, and there was like many shots where the Ice Warrior was like, it was basically black and white, really, where it was like, almost like that, really, and then after a few seconds, the Ice Warrior was almost like, you know, a pile of dust on the floor. And that's why the Ice Warriors can't stand heat. They hate solar power. They hate high temperatures. And that's why most of the time they were always felt to be walking in very cold and wintry conditions to stay safe and also away from the heat. And so, they managed to make it rain, and the whole fungus was completely wiped out, and also the Armada fleet was completely gone as well, orbiting around the sun. And so I really like the whole idea and the whole plan in the invasion plan. I really do like it, and I think Brian Hayles did a really fantastic job on writing a really good Ice Warrior story. And I think the Ice Warriors just do at their absolute best in this story, in my opinion. Just really fantastic. And I think Jamie and Zoe was really great in this as well, having the moments where they were trying to get away from the moon base, or trying to get, you know, from the moon base down to the moon and trying to figure out something else. But yeah, it was quite difficult for them because they didn't really have a part. I think it was mainly because of the Ice Warriors and Fusion, and also I think Fusion was morally the weakest because he valued his life so much and he only cared about himself and he wanted to live. But he was only doing what the Ice Warriors told him, but then he betrayed the Ice Warriors and then he got killed eventually. So he made some commitment of sacrificing his life for Earth, but for what cost did it cost his life, really? And so this is really, you know, how he was a very, you know, panicky kind of character. Whenever you're in that situation, you just have to do what you're told, really. But I think the Ice Warriors are just so manipulative and they're just so powerful. Like, any security guard goes in the way of an Ice Warrior, you just get shot instantly. My gosh, they are fantastic in this. And to be honest with you, I would give it a rate of 9.2, really. I mean, I wouldn't give it the best. I mean, it may not be the best ever story of all time, but I will give you this. This is actually my favourite story featuring the Deadly Ice Warriors. I have to say, I think through all the other Ice Warrior stories, I think this one has to be my favourite, and I just really enjoy it. It's just a really great fun around and very invasion kind of plan from the Ice Warriors, and I think Brian Hayles, the writer of this, completely did a fantastic job on doing a great job in featuring the Ice Warriors, and also Slar. I think Slar is just brilliant. He's with his hissing voice and his manipulative and sinister kind of character. Oh, he just makes a great leader of the Ice Warriors. Just really fantastic. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please do give a like, but also comment your views on this story, and also please do subscribe to my channel if you are new. And so yeah, I have really enjoyed reviewing The Seeds of Death today. But also, now we move on to the final story of Patrick Troughton's era. Now I have to tell you, the next review will be at least 40 minutes long, but I'm not 100% sure. But it will be my longest review ever on my YouTube channel, or potentially forever, really. Well, you never know, may do maybe longer reviews, but you never know. Anyway, that it will be the fantastic, truly magnificent The War Games review, which will take a bit of time, and I'm going to take this advice now. I'm not going to watch it all in one go. I'm going to have a break probably halfway through it. So yeah, the next review we're going to be doing is the tremendous, massive, big review on The War Games, which may be the most longest and most biggest review of my Doctor Who marathon. So guys, stay tuned for more, and I will see you guys next time for the review of The War Games. See you guys then.